Mike, how you doing, man?
Well, how are you, Ty?
Good. You're looking spiffy today.
Well, I'm at the office. People don't think I work, but I actually do have a job. So,
That's just another room in your house. Come on.
yeah. My office is full of, has memorabilia all over signed memorabilia all over the wall. So,
You got to make it feel comfortable. Make it feel at home.
yeah, I got Cal Ripken right behind me.
I like it. I like it. Well, hey, so you and I wanted to real quickly put out a reaction to yesterday's interview with Michael Rubin, CEO of Fanatics. He was on CNBC for those that don't know. And I think he spoke for 7 or 8 minutes, and three and a half of those minutes were dedicated to talking about the sports card industry and kind of his perspective. You and I both texted each other, then called each other and thought, holy moly, we're in a world of trouble. What the heck, man? So let's start with this. You watched the video. What was your immediate reaction after watching the interview with Rubin?
Holy moly, we're in trouble. That was just, they want to take over the entire spectrum of the sports card universe, period. That's what I gleaned from that.
What specifically made you think that?
Well, they talked about making a complete client experience, or not client experience, a complete collector experience through grading. And they talked, all this was in passing, like all this was very subtle, and, no specifics were given, but grading and distribution and online storage and, all these things. I'm like going breaking even. I'm like, wow, they want to be all of it to everybody, and you can't.
Yeah, I think his exact quote is their vision is to bring it all together.
This is really about our vision to create an incredible collector's experience, bringing all the pieces together. To be quite frank, the trading card companies are good manufacturers, but they didn't have a vision for building much more of a direct-to-consumer model and then bringing all the pieces together.
Which sent like chills down my spine in a very negative way. Thinking, first off, there's going to be a lot of people that are very angry because they're going to be out of a job in the hobby. And second, I think he's underappreciating how important the other roles people are and what they do in the hobby.
Well, there's a hobby ecosystem, right? And I think that it all has existed in relative harmony for decades. And they want to flip that completely on its head, that ecosystem, and change all the dynamics of the hobby, period. You agree?
I do. Yeah, I mean, he was as bold to say that, right? They've done things the wrong way. We've already experienced what we can do with our previous experience and, memorabilia, and we're going to bring that to sports cards. Oof.
I mean, have you ever bought anything on Fanatics website? I have not, because everything's so expensive. Like, no, I'll go to Academy and buy for half, or where some relative sports store and buy a jersey or T-shirt or whatever for a third of the price or half the price or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. So he made a comment. We'll dissect this a little bit. He made a comment where currently the way you get cards, there's a lot of good stuff surrounded by a lot of bad stuff.
This is really about a completely different vision for where the trading card industry is going. I think if you really think about the collector experience, it's pretty brutal today. You got to buy primary cards with so many people kind of in the middle of it. When you buy a primary card, then you sell secondary cards somewhere else.
And people are just frustrated with having to open cards and filter through the junk to get to the really good things. When you heard that, what was your kind of takeaway from that? And I think it's just kind of one of those, like, I don't think he really understands the hobby when you make a comment like that.
Yeah, I mean, isn't the part of opening packs is filtering? I mean, they can't just make all great cards, or can they? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are they only going to release hits, so to speak? Is it only going to be, no more base cards? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And my thought there is, like, obviously Topps and Panini, they have their hit only driven products, and we know where those sit in the hobby. But year in, after year, you have the consistent flagship products where you do have 99% junk in Rubin's eyes, but it outsells every single release because that's just what collectors enjoy.
Well, everything can't be high end. You've got a spectrum of budgets within the hobby. Not everybody can afford, very few people can afford triple threads and definitive and transcendent and all these super high end. I'm just thinking of Topps products off the top of my head. That's a very small part of the hobby that can afford those things. They love the idea of ripping packs from flagship products and even online exclusive stuff like Fire and, Ginter, all these Heritage, all these products have a spot in the hobby that is massive, actually.
Yeah.
And I think they're undervaluing that, at least from these things we're hearing, right? We don't know where all this is going, but
for sure. Well,
our job is to speculate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think what I did not hear in that 3.5 minutes, and again, in fairness, like you said, it's quick. We don't know exactly what they're thinking, but it's very like, we're going to focus in on what makes the most money and what these new like investors care about. You don't hear the word like, we're going to make sure collectors, the people who have like held this hobby up, are going to really, really feel like we've got their back, and we're going to put out stuff that really supports the collector. That is a huge swing and miss, if you ask me.
So another tone that I heard from him. Now, granted, this interview was on CNBC, which is a financial network, but he used a lot of financial terms like EBITDA, and he used he even said what did his investors expect in a rate of return on this deal. I think he's used 5 or 6. You'll play the clip, I'm sure, but I don't remember exactly what he said. But it was very investor money driven conversation. Granted, again, in fairness, it was on CNBC, so that should be what they're talking about, but nothing about the collector.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the Squawk Box team, they were definitely digging into that, right? I think they mentioned that. All right, Rubin, we need to know how you're coming up with this valuation, where Topps has historically been valued at about $1 billion max, top end, and half of that was all their candy and junk. So let's just assume half of its cards. You're a $500 million company, you're valuing at $10 billion. What are we missing here?
Yeah, first and foremost, this will surprise you, but the traditional trading card manufacturers will make close to $1 billion in EBITDA this year on a combined basis. There are several companies that manufacture trading cards: Topps, Panini, Upper Deck. In aggregate, it's a highly profitable business. Again, close to $1 billion in EBITDA. That's all selling to distributors, who then sell to retailers, who then sell to resellers, who then put them on eBay, who then sell them to end collectors. So, look, investors, these are very smart investors. They look to get at least a 3 to 5 times return. And when you think about taking this model much more direct to consumer and then adding in, kind of an integrated collector's experience of having, the primary card sold with the secondary capabilities, with grading and breaking and insurance and storage and financing, this is a very massive opportunity. But, I gave you one really important reference point, which is the existing manufacturers today make close to $1 billion selling to distributors.
That was quite interesting. And I love your take on this. He said, what people aren't seeing is that, there's a half $1 billion to $1 billion in cards, but there's this whole other supply chain where there's money being sucked in from all these angles, distributors, resellers, retailers, that we're going to go ahead and bring together into one, and we're going to capture all those profits. What do you think about that? And what's the error in that statement, do you think?
Well, again, going back to that ecosystem that exists, Topps prints a box and it's $50 sold to the distributor. The distributor marks it up to $100. Then they sell it to the hobby shop. The hobby shop marks it up to $120 and sells it to the end customer. I think that what they're going to do is eliminate those people touching it, so to speak, the quote unquote middlemen, and just make all that money themselves. And they'll sell it online for $100. They may not even sell it for $120. They're like, we'll just make all that money. And, Panini has tried to do this. Topps is doing this a little bit, selling online exclusive products where they're doing that. Panini doing, their Dutch auction type product releases online, trying to get the maximum amount of money out of every product. We've seen that. You don't hear about that a whole lot anymore. Why? Because collectors go, no, thank you. Nope. And again, lots to be figured out and seen over time. But the error with that is, again, you're cutting out the ability to go to a store, a hobby store, and have an experience and buy a product. Again, will they still distribute to hobby stores? Maybe. That's still to be seen. Be hard pressed to just cut out all hobby stores from distributions of new product, but wouldn't shock me, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, those are really good points. I think, we were in Vegas a couple weeks ago, and there was a comment I put on Twitter, and you and I spoke about it on one of the videos, where a prominent dealer said that I think the big thing that scares me is that Fanatics doesn't understand how important people across this ecosystem, across this channel, are to helping collectors consistently buy things they don't really need. And I think this is where, when he talks about like squeezing the supply chain and being like the one-stop shop, I really think they're underappreciating, undervaluing like everybody's role in continuing to keep this hobby like on fire.
Yeah. Maybe people don't understand, and you can even speak to this at a greater level than I can, but when distributors go to hobby shops and say, hey, we're going to give you an allocation of a popular product, but you have to buy an unpopular, you can't just pick the popular products and take allocations on those. You have to take it across the spectrum of all the crap. And so it allows Panini and Topps to unload the things that are not typically desired, right? And what I think Fanatics might do, the way they could solve that problem, if they cut out these distributors and the hobby shops, is online stuff just becomes print to order. It's all pre-order. They'll set, all right, we're going to have a window of time that you can order X product, and then they just print it to order. Very similar in terms of business of probably how they run their jersey, athletic wear business, where they don't have an inventory of Juan Soto jerseys. Most likely they just print them as they get orders for those online. And
yep.
So I think you'll see that the window closes, they print the product, ship it out to whoever ordered it. And that way they're not stuck with this giant inventory of crappy product, which in the previous ecosystem was just distributed through distributors, and they would be left holding the bag. Hey, good luck selling all this. And then the hobby shop owners, like you said, as a person comes in to the shop, they're trying to rid their shelves of this unpopular product. They'll either slash prices or, hey, if you buy this box, I'll give you this box for half off. Or, there's wheeling and dealing that can happen at a granular level that doesn't happen online. It's either you buy it or you don't, right?
Yep.
There's no negotiation happening.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. I mean, that plays a massive role in these numbers that they come up with. And then you start to factor in the group breakers who drive so much of the demand, right? And they're constantly, they're salesmen, right? They're selling and building client bases, and they're able to pitch products and, mixers and all these things of stuff that I think if you go on the Fanatics site and you see like, okay, print on demand, this particular product, and you're like, I'm good, man. I'm good. Like that starts to weigh on the sustainability of this whole idea, I think.
Which might lead to kind of if you think about what's the ultimate conclusion today, if we can think out in the future, knowing so many things can change, there's so many moving parts to this.
Yeah.
But I think our opinion of what the future of the hobby is will change over time as more and more information comes out and comes to light of how they're going to tackle all this. We've got still years to figure this out.
Yeah.
But if you were to say today, knowing what we know, as more information comes on board, our opinions are allowed to change. What is your opinion about the future of the hobby?
I think their current approach will absolutely destroy the hobby.
Yeah, I do too. I think
we agree.
And that's sad to think about. Like, are we, and I don't want everybody to be clear on this. We're not saying the hobby's going to be ruined. We're saying, as what we know right now, it's not a good trajectory that things are towards, and it makes me sad for the hobby. Which is it's good for vintage, right?
Well, I think that's a key takeaway. I think Vintage is going to be a huge positive benefactor of this. And I even think some of the modern, maybe not ultra modern, but modern to ultra modern graded stuff could also be a benefactor of all this the next 24 months.
Right. You're saying.
What's that?
You're saying the current stuff that's out, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's just going to be a lot of like, remorse for not buying more of this because of the new model that comes out, and you're like, oh, I missed the good old days. I want to go back and grab this. And be a lot of that.
That's going to play huge, right? The good old days mentality. I'm just going to go buy the stuff that I loved. You know, if we're looking at 2025 or whatever, back in 2021, when things were great or things were different and things were normal, what we call normal, that doesn't mean that Fanatics can't attract an entirely new type of collector to the hobby.
It's a good point.
You know, but the people in the hobby currently that enjoy it for what it is today will long for that feeling of, which is sad to say, nostalgia all the way back in 2021.
Right.
But again, it goes like a 1955 Topps Willie Mays is not going to change no matter what Fanatics does.
Yeah.
Right. A Mickey Mantles and Hank Aaron's and all these players that people collect now, I think it'll be more, I don't want to collect the new stuff. I've got hobby dollars to spend. I'm going to go collect some of the old stuff now. I think you could see a shift in dollars. Again, not to say that more people can't be attracted to the hobby under a new business model. That's certainly possible. That like the new way of doing things. Good for them. It won't be me, most likely, given what I'm hearing now.
100%. I have not for one second thought, I can't wait for this to happen. I'm going to jump all over this and buy this product. Like, there's been nothing said that has me super excited about what's going to happen. I think that's probably the biggest thing that's sticking out to me. It's like, there's no carrot being dangled for a guy like me, apparently a guy like you, to get me excited about 2026. I don't want it to get here. I want time to slow down.
Yep. I agree. Good takes, man. Good takes. Hey,
on that
do we
note,
have a new show coming out?
Yeah. So we're excited to talk about this. I'll show a clip of our intro that our little in-house savant, Matt Coleman, has put together. But yeah, you and I are starting a new show next week.
Yeah.
You came up with a great name in about 5 seconds. You want to talk about it?
It's going to be called On the Fly with Mike and Ty. And it's going to be just us doing this and talking about hobby news. And we've found that these types of videos are popular. You guys love just people talking about the hobby. And you may not agree with Ty and I's opinions all the time. That's okay. And Ty and I don't agree with each other all the time, which is also okay. And I think leads to great discussion. The point is to have a discussion about it. The point is to, all opinions are welcome. And this is going to be us just talking about general hobby news that's happening. We're going to try to do it as a weekly show. That's our goal. And came up with a name in about 2. So we were like, what should we name it? And
it's stuck. It's stuck. I think the idea too is to be a little bit more formalized. I know you and I are off the cuff with a lot of stuff, and so we're trying to put a little bit of structure around it so that people know what to expect. Yep. And we'll bring in some good guests. We'll do some live shows, and we'll make it something that you can look forward to, in addition to what we already do, right? So just one more piece that we can throw into the network and work on. So excited to do it with you.
It'll be a podcast as well. So you can listen to it you can watch it either on YouTube or listen to it on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll have it there too.
Perfect. Well, I'll show the clip of the intro, and we'll catch you next week.
All right. See you, man.